need stricter. So to begin, ever since the Second Amendment was established, America's been set aside from many different countries in our leniency in our gun laws. We're some of the most lenient gun laws in the world, and our citizens pride themselves on this. One of our big things we like to emphasize is our freedoms and our right to protect ourselves. So, however, there are others that do claim that gun laws are, they're not strict enough and that guns are dangerous and need to be more controlled or ruled out altogether. So, I'm going to argue, though, for the case that we shouldn't restrict, or we shouldn't make gun laws stricter. So, as I mentioned in a few of my other videos, I'm an environmental studies major, and one of the big things we study is conservationism. Conservationism is basically protecting nature, keeping populations in check, animal populations, through hunting and management. One of the biggest things that would be affected by gun laws is conservationism. It would be harder for hunters to get guns to control animal populations, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more down the line about what this would actually cause. So I believe the root of the disagreement between those who want stricter gun laws and those who do not is just education. I think there's a lot of things that both sides don't know about guns, and there's some things that, you know, one group claims is right and the other group claims is wrong, etc. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the positives of guns and how to avoid the negatives. So I'm first going to talk about why our current gun laws are not working and some of the problems that people do have with guns. One of the big problems is the fact that guns can fall into the hands of the wrong people. This includes mainly children. I know there's an article written by Frank Stryer called Do We Love Our Guns More Than We Love Our Kids? And he mentions that 10,000 kids die each year because of gun-related instances. And that, to me, is a result of negligent parents or negligent gun owners. I know as a kid growing up, we had guns in the house. However, they were in the safe, and neither me or my brothers knew the code. So it was only my parents who knew. They were never kept out, never loaded, you know. And I think if more parents did that, there wouldn't be as many issues with guns. Of course, there will still always be those negligent parents that leave the guns out, and because of them, we do need to kind of look into different alternatives to make guns safer so that these parents, the negligent parents that will always stay negligent, that they will keep their guns hidden from kids, or the guns will be safe so that the kids can't shoot them. So another issue is that laws don't work for criminals. I mean, we can always make, you know, gun laws stricter, looser, whatever, but criminals are not going to follow them. They're going to get their guns if they want to, and they're going to, you know, do whatever they want with the guns whenever they want to. So, implementing, I guess, stricter laws or less strict laws wouldn't really affect them, and they're the ones who I think we should be the most worried about. Another issue is that many think that guns serve racist goals. An article called The Racist Origin of America's Gun Control Laws, written by Thomas Eldom, basically says that gun laws are not meant to be racist, but they always end up being racist. Starting from the Civil War, African Americans were able to fight for the Union. However, they were not able to keep their guns after the war. And moving on from that, after the war, with all the black codes and black laws and racism going on, blacks again were not able to use guns. And Edlund thinks that this is still prevalent today, that we as Americans are still suspicious of blacks as they, you know, if they want to have guns to protect themselves. Another point that I think is very important and kind of difficult to go about is mentally ill buying guns. So the way it works in America is if a judge declares you mentally ill, then you, on your background check, that'll show up, and then you will not be able to buy a gun. However, there's many Americans that have not been claimed mentally ill, that are able to buy guns and get away with it because it's not on their background check. So an article published in USA Today was called Give Authorities More Tools to Keep Guns from Madmen. It describes the shooting that happened in the college, University of California in Santa Barbara, where a mentally ill man got a gun and shot a bunch of students. So the article basically summarizes this incident and says that authorities should have greater rights in deciding whether or not someone should be able to buy a gun. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about why these gun laws are working and talk a little bit about why the reasons I just mentioned are not, I guess, not as important as the reasons for why we do need guns, if that makes sense. So to go back to the previous issue of guns falling into the wrong hands, one of the things that is evolving is called a smart gun. Basically, this ensures that only the owner can shoot the gun. I believe because of fingerprinting, some kind of a code, things like that, no one could shoot the gun but the owner. And in an article, David Kimberly talks about this a little bit more. However, he does say that some Americans are against this idea. He doesn't know why, neither do I, if they would make things safer, but it's still kind of a controversial issue. However, I do think that would be something that would work for us. So to go on to the fact that criminals don't follow laws, one of the articles I read about this was actually called Stricter Gun Laws Won't Stop American Urban Violence, and it was by a teacher called Becky Rambach, and she was a teacher in a correction facility up north and basically teaching criminals, and she was saying that a lot of her students did never want to see a gun again. They thought that the guns were the reason their life was ruined, but they also claimed that without a gun they'd be dead on the streets. So it's kind of a controversial issue and a sticky topic to get around, but people like this, they need to protect themselves. People that get, caught in the wrong situations. I know it's kind of silly to say, but without that, so many more wrongful people would be dead. One of her students actually was saying that the safest he'd ever felt was in prison because none of the inmates had guns and weapons. So to elaborate how I talked previously about people thinking that gun laws serve racist goals, this is something I can't completely disagree with, especially because of all the Baltimore riots going on right now. I think that it is a very controversial issue. Racism is very prevalent in American life right now because of these issues. So I think that because strengthening gun laws, regardless, doesn't really have much to do with this issue. As long as law enforcement can keep things fair, officials can keep things fair and not single out minorities in any kind of way. And I think America is moving towards that goal. We just have had a lot of hiccups recently. So, to talk again about the mentally ill buying guns. So this is an issue that's very, very important and kind of scary to think about. However, I think that, like the author said previously, I think that we should have stricter laws on gun control or on mentally ill buying guns. I think this could just get kind of touchy with minorities being singled out again if they are. In any case, like for instance, if a minority is not able to buy a gun, I think they'll think that the seller's being racist. However, it's the only way to do it. I think just gun store owners should have more of a say of who gets to buy their guns. So to elaborate on an issue that I do really like to talk about is hunting. So one of the big things we do in my major is conservationism. I grew up hunting. My family has always hunted, and I think hunting is a very important part of conservationism and protecting our lives. I think that it's very important to keep animals in check and in order for humans to survive with nature. So of course, like I mentioned earlier, stricter gun laws would definitely affect that. So to close, gun laws are absolutely tricky to cover. They're not simply black and white, and honestly, if we could customize gun laws to every single person, that would be the ideal way, but that's just not how it's going to work. So guns are very important for Americans, and they've always been a very important part of our lives, so I don't think putting in stricter laws would benefit anyone of any kind. So thank you for listening.